All right. Hi, ladies. Happy Monday. I am so excited. You guys, tech problems in 2020. So I am Violet Day. I'm the founder of FemCity, and we usually do a Monday motivation series and we live stream it. And my beautiful guest today, we have been flowing with tech issues, and so we're a little giggly because it's been hilarious. It's taken us 12 minutes to connect, but we're super happy to finally connect with you guys. Now I've gotten so gritty, Kathleen, with 2020 that I expect something to always go awry. Like I'm always like, I just go with it. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. So this morning I was teaching a class at 8:30 for a local school, a little entrepreneurship, and I had no Wi-Fi. All the little bars were gone. Done. So it was like, of course it is, because it's 2020. Like, why would I lose Wi-Fi in a metropolitan city? Because it's 2020.
Yeah.
So,
I can get StreamYard. Yeah, that sounds easy. I'll go on 90 seconds before and find out that it doesn't work and I need to change browsers, and then that doesn't work and it still doesn't. Like, it was just hilarious. And then I got up to get my son and my dress caught on my pillow, so I had a huge string going across the room, and I just thought this would be hilarious if this was being videoed of scrambling we do before, like trying to be all professional and presentation. And I know everybody totally can relate to this. Totally. So it's so great.
Yeah. I was gonna say, the other day I saw a picture. So Upworthy is a publication that I follow, and they had a picture of a woman who was, I mean, very accomplished woman. And she looked like, it had like the shot of what she looked like as she was on a news show, you know, like one of the big ones.
Yeah.
And then behind the scenes, she had it like all propped with like kids' toys, and there were like kids' toys all over the place. And I was just dying of laughter. I was like, oh my gosh, that is, I love it. All right, let's get to it. So the month of September, we were talking about clarity. I asked Kathleen to join me today as a guest for our Monday Motivation series. We apologize that we're not streaming into all those other areas, but we'll go ahead and post it there later. And if you're joining us, we can't see your comments either, but please comment and tag, and we will go back and answer if you do have any questions as we talk about clarity today. Kathleen is one of our new FemCity Global members, and we've worked on a couple of campaigns together. I love her energy, and I thought she would be so great to share for us today motivation, inspiration when it comes to clarity. Kathleen, before we start, can you share a little bit about who you are for those femmes that have no idea who you are?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Yes. So I am Kathleen Miller, founder of Intuitive Lifestyle Success, and I work with clients internationally with everything from cancer recovery to wellness coaching to I work as an intuitive consultant, but it really is for everything from relationship to business to life to, the full spectrum of anything you're wanting to improve. And my goal is to help empower women to be more intuitive, because we all are, but to be more aware of that for them specifically, which I'm going to get into in a couple ways about clarity today, so that you are just way more empowered and more efficient in being able to balance as much as we are in 2020. Like, being more efficient in that is huge. So my work is really specific to each person with that.
Love that. Love that. So before we dive in a little bit, because I think that sometimes when we talk about clarity, sometimes the definition is a little bit, it's not really when we think about clarity. So some people have like these kind of own definitions, but before we kind of dive in a little bit, how would you define clarity?
That's such a good point, because even when you sent me that question before, I was thinking, wow, that totally depends on where you are. Because if you're really first of all, if your energy's off and you feel overwhelmed just physically, clarity is, what do you need in your lifestyle, and what do you need in sometimes your diet or your just choices you're making within a day to get your energy right. For other people, they do have that in place, and it's more of, my business isn't accelerating. What am I needing? Where's the clarity of what specifics are for me to begin to get more traction or to get the needle to move with income? And then for other people, it's relationships, feeling like they're in the same loop over and over again. So being able to get clarity. So it's really specifically to where you are and what isn't quite moving the way you want it to. So to me, defining clarity is that intuitive awareness of where you're going, what you're going towards. And then because you're so clear on that, you have that accelerated, sort of that effortless knowing of each step kind of coming in when it's time. You know, if you're not noticing it and feeling it and thinking about clarity, then you have it. If you're thinking about it, then, you know, or you're scrambling or you're second guessing or you're doubting, then that's when you want to take a step back and start again to say, okay, let me get clarity again, because it's fluid. It's not a right answer that's ongoing. It is a fluid thing we're moving in and out of as we evolve. This year, and clarity is probably one of the top for everyone. I don't care where you are, where your business is, it is containing clarity with everything we are coping with within a day, and all of those layers happening simultaneously. I use the analogy of a jump rope. Like 2019 was one jump rope, go through, and now 2020 is like, oh, we're going to add this, and all the different jump ropes come. Now you're jumping 5 ropes, 6 ropes, and that's what's happening this year. We are like jumping multiple ropes, and that takes more skill, it takes more endurance, and it sure as heck takes more focus, or you're going to get tripped. So
I love that. Double, I think it's called a double Dutch. I can't remember the title. The double Dutch.
Quadruple Dutch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, quadruple. Exactly. And I love that you shared, by the way, that it's an ebb and flow kind of fluid, because I find a lot of times our femmes have a really deep, profound sense of clarity, and then something will shift. And of course, you mentioned that happens more common nowadays in 2020. But I feel like then there's a level of frustration because yesterday they had clarity, but then today they don't. And so I love that you mentioned that it's an evolution of process. So just because you have it and then you lose it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. You're not broken. It's just there are all these components and these variables. And so you kind of have to just maintain and then might perhaps like reconnect, I guess, to finding that clarity. I know that when I've had those moments, I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? You know what I mean? And then you have to reconnect to the work. Was there a time in your life where and I find you to be one of the most clear people energetically and spiritually in the work that you do. Was there a time in your life that you didn't have that clarity, that you felt disconnected? And if you did, what was that like? And how did you get back on track to find that clarity?
Well, definitely in business, for, you know, being Motivational Monday for the Femmes, I'll use a business example because I think there's so many examples of finding new clarity over and over. But when I rebranded many years ago, when I started because I've been in business a little over 15 years, and when I began, it was more healing, and I had done so many. I'm a born medium, so I had all of these advanced practitioner training. So I was really all body work, health, recovery, healing. And then what happened is I started really reading relationships, reading businesses, reading properties, reading different things. And then I realized, wow, I'm kind of limited in the way I branded so far. So when I got that clarity that there's more to it, and that's when I heard someone speaking about, and they mentioned intuitive lifestyle, and that every cell in my body just went, yes, that's it. So I rebranded as Intuitive Lifestyle Success is my company name now. And that really, to me, encapsulates this really being intuitive for you, knowing what for you is the right diet, the right day, the right environment, the right way to work, and then lifestyle, having everything support you around that to generate your version of success, because that's so different to everybody. Right. Everybody's like financial goals, where they want to be, the visibility level, like that's super unique to each person. So having those, you know, that to me kind of opened up and really helped me feel, I don't know, just more like wider on the spectrum of what I wanted to offer and play with in my work, but also, you know, that just became stronger with what I wanted to share and help the world too.
I love that. When I was listening to you speak, my photographer, the one that does all my headshots, lives in South Florida also, and she would have called you an expander. That yeah. She calls people like, you are an expander, and you realized I'm thinking that you could expand, you could grow, and also help others to do the same. A huge storm is coming through. So I hope that we stay connected. I'm just saying, like, just like tornado winds just pass by, and I'm like, of course.
We'll send it good juju. Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah. So what would you someone who is right now really struggling to find that clarity, that perhaps they had clarity really on at the beginning of the year, maybe they got it during the pandemic, and now they've kind of tinkered off, what would you say to them on how they could reconnect?
Well, definitely a few tips are redefine, and then you want to clarify and create. Those are really the three steps that I would suggest. And again, defining is ongoing. To rebrand your whole company and change your name and do all that, you're really redefining so much that your logo changes, your tags change, your everything changes. So now you may or may not be there, but really even if you're still maintaining the core to core of what your business is, it's still like, who am I now that I'm quarantined? What is my business now with all the adaptations that we're in? But what I keep going back to too for myself is keeping that balance first and foremost, but also how can I really enjoy this? Enjoy this. I hear so many people saying I'm surviving, we're getting through. And that's not going to create a whole lot. Like, I'm more for how can I enjoy this so that it's sort of, you'll effortlessly create more when you're enjoying it, in my opinion. So that's one to say for you out there, what is it for you that that you really do love about it, which is that step 2 of like really defining your desire, and what are you wanting to do more of? What are you wanting to create? Because if you don't have that clear internally, the universe can't bring those people and those supports to you in that. And then 3 is create. Once you do have that clarity, then it is like, okay, what do I do with this? What do I, at the end of the day, we have to kind of move out and reach out and connect and share. And then that's where, that contribution can then be made and come back to us. Because when you're not clear, it doesn't quite show up, or it's not the right fit. So that's where, that defining is number 1, but then, ultimately creating with that.
I love that. I know sometimes I hear like femmes that are, new at a certain angle or a certain business. And I always tell them like energy is what people feel. So if someone says, well, what do you do as an example? And you're like, well, I kind of, so like there's this thing and I do like this, it's kind of like, it's like red, but not really red. It's like a yellow. And so already like not knowing and that comes from like not being clear, right? Versus like, I help people, transition into making 6-figure incomes or whatever. Like when you're more clear, your energy, I think, also radiates that, versus if you're a little bit wonky and you've kind of lost your way and you're not really sure, it doesn't matter what words you say or what you put out there, because I feel like that energy carries on. It's almost like when you're financially strapped, like if you are, oh my God, how am I going to make ends meet? How am I going to make ends meet? That energy versus like thinking about, like, how do I revert back to my why, my purpose, my meaning, my clarity. And then you focus on that. That just came to mind with me because I see so many femmes going through that and not realizing why things are not flourishing.
Well, and also to go further with that too is, I had, even though I worked with you just shortly, if you don't mind my sharing, looking at you energetically, and that I said you're that pink, that inner heart, and had that pink. And then after the call, I was walking and all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, her brand colors are pink and gold. And pink and gold are inner heart, which is that same thing. And I didn't even connect the dots on the call, but then later I was like, I gotta tell her that she is, and that's soul branding, because you're tapped in energetically, but because you're so aligned with it, you naturally have that as your logo colors. Ellen DeGeneres is another great example. Like, she's a throat chakra, she does voices, she's like talk show, all of that, but her brand is light blue, which is throat chakra. So she really is, and when you're really aligned in that, you don't have to worry about knowing this chakra stuff. You'll just do it because you're resonating there. So that's what you'll be drawn to. But that is something that I work with people, is helping them understand at that super subtle vibrational level where they're resonating, and then helping them to kind of like own that and harness that, because that's your gold. That's your vein of gold. When you're connected into what's so unique to you and your soul purpose, that kind of effortlessly, it can't not show up. Like, it just will. And then from there, you don't question it at all. Like, my logo is the whole rainbow because I do work all over the place. I am full spectrum. And I'm, like you said, I call it an activator. I activate people, but that's something that we each do differently. Some people soothe and love, some people direct, some people activate, some people are all over the place. So finding what you are in that essence form, oh my gosh, can just give you so much clarity that when you do get a little off course because of influences around you, you still know, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm loving, I'm making a difference in the world. And, because you're such a core connector, like you're just such a heart-centered connector, in my opinion, for you. And so that is the essence that just kind of moves through the very core of everything you do. So even when you do very different projects, that's what people are responding to. That's your contribution to the world. And that, if that becomes, that guiding light, then when things feel a little off, it's not that big of a deal because you've got that core so reinforced. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I'm thinking now, I know so many femmes, there's so many courses out there and there are so many templates, and I see it a lot where people, I can even see, I can tell when people have taken them because they all start doing the same branding and the same messaging and the same copy. And I always feel like if you just use your own words, and it's great to learn from everyone, and then you take snippets of what feels really good for you versus I'm going to follow exactly what Violet does, and I'm going to follow exactly what Kathleen, that's Kathleen's thing and that's Violet's thing. But I think that when you feel that block, oftentimes from what I can see from my perspective is that it's like they're not connecting with their uniqueness.
Yes.
And how they can serve the world through the words that they use, even when I always share this story, when I wrote my book, the first time I wrote the book, I wrote it thinking about what other people wanted. And it read I read it and I was like, this is horrible. And then I wrote it again, and then I read it and I was like, this is horrible. And I was like, I'm just going to write it with the words that I use. I use spiritual words, and I use, words that are super Violetisms, and then it flowed. And then I wrote it within a couple of days. And so that's me, when I lost that clarity, is because I was trying to serve the world in ways that I thought they wanted to hear it. And at the end of the day, I was like, that's not me. I'm just going to write it just to finish it and get it off my plate. And then it resonated with people. So I think that I love that you mentioned that just you have your own beauty in this world, and the way that you share it is really important to find your own vibe, to connect with who you are. Anyway, that's a whole other, I'm sure, I would love to learn more about the chakra things. I think maybe next time when you come back, maybe you can teach us about all those. I'm so ignorant of that.
Yeah, chakra personalities is it's a big deal because it's how you function, and it's also how, whether it's dating or business, right, to make the most of, really having compatible supports in that. But yes, that can go down a way
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't even want to get, we are wrapping up. So I'm like, if we start talking that, we'll be here for 2 hours. I learn, but I love learning, and I love and I don't know about that whole world. So I'd love to, hopefully you come back and you can teach us that as well. Final advice for those that are really, perhaps maybe you've made a little thing in their brain. They're going to go back and do a little bit of, clarity work and kind of reconnect to that. Final advice that you have for those that are struggling to find clarity in these moments.
Yeah. Well, definitely get to balance first. Because if you're feeling desperate, or you're feeling fearful, or you're feeling really disappointed, you're working from an aggravated place that isn't going to create anything that's going to work. Even if it's like when they say hammer it, suck it up and hammer it, that never works. And it will fall short on social media, it'll fall short in your engagement. So get your balance first. And then from there, being able to say, okay, what could I be excited about? What could I be passionate? Even if I'm not there yet, what have I been in the past that maybe I could rekindle a bit? Because I've done when you get to close to 20 years, it's like, okay, how can I do it differently and change it up and keep it fresh? And that's why I do so many different collaborative projects and retreats and events, because it just keeps it so stimulated and fresh for me. Right. But that's really, again, a different equation, because not everybody wants that. But asking just what could I focus on to give me a little more enthusiasm in the moment? Because sometimes we can't always get to jumping up and down. If you're discouraged, you're not going to be at joy. You have to just be there and gently move up of, let me just get hopeful about some change. What would help me in a next step that could, help me feel a bit more pulled together, and then circle back around to this. Because if you're too low, it's just not the time to do that. You need to kind of collect yourself and get that balance first, and then go back to the drawing board with it. But once you have the balance, then you're going to start making, those steps that will get you somewhere.
Absolutely. I love that. and I'm open about it. I've hit rock bottom a couple of times, like spiritually and energetically and even financially. And I remember having those thoughts of like, I could not even think about tomorrow. I couldn't even think about, I was just so down in the dumps.
Yeah.
That would have really served me well to think about what did bring me joy, like refocusing the energy on aspects that lifted me up, and then using that, leveraging that to elevate myself so that I could get out of that dumpster kind of thought process that I was going through, to at least get me engaged into working on what could I be, what could I do? I love that. I love that.
And appreciating where you are.
Right.
Most people are like, oh, I'm not traveling, I'm not this and that, and I've definitely done my share of that. But it's also, hey, what can I appreciate? I'm so blessed to be in a home that is so comfortable, and I'm so blessed, to really just appreciate where you are. This isn't going to be forever. Things will kind of loosen up and move forward, and then, oh my goodness, how much will we appreciate everything else when we do get to come back to or create the new norm, which we're doing right this moment.
Love that. Kathleen, how can femmes find you if they want to connect with you and learn more about the work that you're doing?
Definitely. If you'd like to connect, I do offer a free connection call. It's on my webpage at intuitivelifestylesuccess.com, or at Instagram. My Instagram handle is Intuitive Lifestyle Success, and my Facebook is Intuitive Lifestyle Success. So pretty easy, and definitely, reach out. I've got awesome like blog and tips, and there's a free Activate Your Intuition e-course that's on there too. So definitely check it out and just say hello.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much, Kathleen. I loved starting my Monday and my week with you. And I'm so grateful that the tech gods have allowed us to connect today.
That really was a miracle. That was Miracle Monday for me, for sure. Because I was like, oh no, we'd be in trouble. Yeah, that was crazy. So
thank God. Yeah, all the stars aligned for this moment. And I'm actually ending it with some goosebumps. So that's good. So anyway, thank you, Kathleen. Sending you lots of love. So great to have you.
Appreciate it so much.
Have a great week. Bye, everyone.